Hello and welcome to a brand new video. This is quite a different video for this channel. I've decided to do something, a bit of a reflection on something I said in a video a while back. As you know by the title, this is about the 13th Doctor, more specifically the idea of a female Doctor. At the start of last year I recorded a video where I talked about what I thought about the idea of a female Doctor. And then of course, July 2017, we got the announcement that Jodie Whittaker will become the 13th Doctor, the first female incarnation. So I recorded a video then talking about my opinions, my initial reaction and everything else like that. And what I thought would be nice would be to revisit those videos and record myself both before and after the series in question, the upcoming series 11. So I'll cut quickly back to a clip I recorded back 2 days before the woman who fell to Earth. Hello viewers and Luke from the future. This is Luke from the past, recording this 2 days prior to the broadcast of the first episode of Series 11, Jodie Whittaker's first episode, and sort of when Doctor Who changes quite dramatically for the first time in 50 odd years. I wanted to record these segments before I saw even a single episode of Jodie's run, because I wanted to sort of address the opinions of the past, and obviously I want to see how my opinions change in the future. So basically I'm going to run through a lot of the key points from the previous two videos and just basically say what I think and my opinion is, if they've changed since those videos, my opinion on Jodie, my opinion on everything else that I mentioned in the first two videos, and yeah, let's just see how this goes. The reason I'm doing this video, I suppose, is as an experiment to see how an opinion of a fan changes over a period of time, from a concept to a reality to a actual taster of what that reality might be, and then ultimately the aftermath of what said thing is. And I thought this would be a nice opportunity because I recorded videos talking about this concept in both the first two stages, and I thought it would be a perfect opportunity to do so. Taking a female Doctor does switch the dynamics, because would the companion stay female? Would the companion stay male? Would it be, have a reverse role thing? Would that work as much? Would it be a dynamic people would recognise as the same dynamic as a male Doctor and a female companion? Things are going to change quite drastically. Whether the whole TARDIS team setup will be completely different, we don't know yet, really. The dynamic between the Doctor and the companions. When the announcements, both videos I released, I didn't actually know the companions. The first time, obviously, there was no announcement about the Doctor. The second time we'd only just had Jodie's announcement. It would be a while before we got Tosin Cole, Mandip Gill and Bradley Walsh announced as the three companions. It's curious to see now with this new setup, because at the moment we've only seen, in my perspective, I've only seen the teaser, the two trailers, the first clip that was leaked, although I didn't watch it when it was leaked, I watched it when it was officially announced from episode 1, and obviously all the promotional, that glass ceiling trailer and a variety of other things. So this is only going off my opinions from all these things. Tosin Cole, Mandip Gill, Bradley Walsh. We've got a TARDIS team of 4 again for the first time properly since the 1980s. The 80s suffered with Adric, Nyssa and Tegan from overcrowding, although yet the earlier days of the show with Susan, Ian and Barbara, or Ian, Barbara and Vicky, the team seemed to work. So you do know that the dynamic works, and it's also quite obvious as well that the show itself can adapt to it. One thing I was always concerned about was what would the main companion be? With the dynamic between a male actor as a companion and the female Doctor, Jodie's Doctor. And I think with a TARDIS team of 3, there doesn't seem to be a lead companion. Normally there's a lead companion when you have like Amy and Rory, it's Amy, Jamie and Zoe, it was Jamie, Bill and Nardole, it was always Bill. There's like always a character as a lead and a secondary companion. And here we've got 3 characters that seem to be very much equal playing field. Ryan, Yasmin, Graham, all seem to be very much equal playing field, and I hope that's how it plays out in the show, which is sort of what happened really with Susan, Ian and Barbara. This is what happened sort of to a degree with Adric, Nyssa and Tegan. A trio of companions do tend to sort of level the playing ground a little bit, especially with a female Doctor. So I think a bigger TARDIS team, I think 2 would have been, you would have had a lead companion if you had 2, so with 3 we've got more of an equal playing field, which is nice. It's going to be interesting. I think if they've done it the right way, the curiosity will come when either one of these companions leaves, whenever the series, if it's at the end of this series, if it's at the end of the next series, Christmas special, we don't know. But if the dynamic drops to less than 3 companions, I'm curious to see how Jodie's Doctor and which one becomes lead and how a relationship works. I think Chris Chibnall's done the right thing, having a full TARDIS team. One quick note I will note, although still not sure about the whole Doctor and Friends thing, because we've had the Companion was never a assistant was always one that was quite condescending to a degree. They say, oh, Doctor Who's assistant, putting them lower than the Doctor. Companion never was something that, a word that ever dictated that the Companion was less than the Doctor. The Companion was always the one that supported the Doctor. That's, you know, friend, don't know why the word change happened really. You know, meet the Doctor's new friends, why can't I just say meet the Doctor's new companions? It doesn't denote the three characters in any way to the Doctor. You know, they're trying to, that's one thing I'm not sure if the wording's right with that. The crowded TARDIS. How do I think it worked? Well, it didn't really, massively. I feared that one companion would get left out. I was concerned that you would have, I mentioned with two companions, you have a lead and a secondary. That didn't actually happen, but realistically, if I had to pick out the three companions, Ryan, Graham, Yasmin, I would say Graham was the lead companion in the sense of a lot of story was focused on him, the death of Grace in the first episode, his reflection and his connection with Ryan, and how the two of them sort of developed a relationship as a grandfather and a grandson. I liked how that worked. So Graham was very much a focus. I don't know if this was down to, I don't think this was down to the casting, because obviously Bradley was probably the most well known out of the three companions, the only one I knew of prior to this show. So I'm not sure whether there was any direct reasoning behind that. I quite like the fact we have an older person as a companion travelling in the TARDIS. It works nicely, but we did have the problem of overcrowding. Not all three of them tend to get a lot of dynamic. We're introducing four characters. I mentioned before with the only time it's ever happened was at the start of the show. The show first started in 1963. The episodes then were 25 minutes. They had 4 parts, up to 6 parts. There's a lot of padding. At 4 characters, you can space that out enough to sort of. In some, to be honest, actually, there wasn't actually enough. There was too much episodes for those 4 characters to do anything. But when you've got 15-minute episodes, the space of a new series, 3 companions is difficult. It didn't work with companions we already had pre-established, Adric, Nyssa, Tegan, when they came in from the 4th Doctor into the 5th Doctor. So, you know, the concern was, would Jodie's Doctor not have as much attention? It's such a big change, and I'm not sure having this many companions to begin with worked. One companion that got very left out was Yasmin. She got a couple episodes dedicated to her, the Arachnids episode and the Punjab episode. Both of those two had focus on Yasmin, but with the exception of the Punjab, I don't think she even had that much focus in the Arachnids episode. She always felt a split apart, since the focus was more on Graham. Ryan linked very much to Graham and the relationship between the pair of them. The Doctor still finding herself, but the Doctor even then was almost becoming secondary to Ryan and Graham's developing relationship, and I don't know if that has jeopardised the idea of her, this new Doctor, especially this so different Doctor. Has it really helped the situation? I don't know. So, in conclusion, at this stage in time, I think the crowded TARDIS hasn't worked. I think if we had, since they've cut the episodes down, well, they've cut the number of episodes down to 10, it doesn't give a lot of room for development, and I think most notably Yasmin and the Doctor herself have suffered because they haven't had the room to breathe, because the story's been taken by other characters. And of course you've got to add supporting characters, additional characters. Even if you chuck in a couple supporting characters per episode, that's 6 characters you've got to maintain for the course of only 50 minutes. It's not a lot to deal with, really. This point in time, it's not really worked. I don't know. I think a lot of the arguments can be said. I think a lot of Doctor Who fans want this to happen. There's a minority there that definitely want to see it. There's a lot of people I've seen on posts and forums and people saying, yeah, I want this to happen, while there are quite a few that don't. But I believe it's inevitable. Completely inevitable. I think now the idea has been put in people's heads. There's a lot of people put forward every time, and I think eventually it's going to happen, whether it's the 13th Doctor or the 20th Doctor, or eventually it will happen, I think. I wasn't expecting it, to be honest, and I was hoping perhaps we'd have one more male Doctor, Chris Chibnall, to warm up and bring the show back to life, but he's going all out, so You know, in a way, you've got to respect him. You've got to go, wow, he's giving it a proper go. I believed it was inevitable in the first video. The inevitability of it was going to happen. I wasn't expecting it to be the 13th, but with the change of the showrunner, it was something I certainly thought about. It's the same sort of thing going, the same reason why a woman can't play James Bond. There's just no need for it, really. Why would you want to change a popular male character? One thing now, and the argument is always the same, James Bond and Sherlock Holmes are used as examples going, well, if you're going to change the Doctor into a woman, why can't you do it to Sherlock Holmes and James Bond? Would it work? Would people react a bit different to those characters than they do Doctor Who? They see Doctor Who as because it's written into the show, the context, the Doctor can change. That, you know, James Bond and Sherlock Holmes, they just look different in different iterations of the character. Well, this one is all one ongoing character that has changed within the context of the show, and people, I think, do look at that and go, well, that opens those possibilities. Comparing it to the gender change with the likes of James Bond and Sherlock Holmes, and we can bring in the Ghostbusters as well as an example. There's something about the Doctor that it's allowed the audience to change the gender of the character. The character is an alien, the character can physically change their appearance. In the context of the show, it sort of carries the show over. With variations of James Bond, with Sherlock Holmes, these characters are human male characters. And whenever we've had a different cast change, it's been a reboot of the character itself. It's never carried on really from previous. I'm not sure about the Bond films, but I believe a lot of the Bond films based on each actor are in their own set universe. They make reference to the previous Bond films to a degree, like sly reference going, oh, look about this. But they never directly follow on. It's not like James Bond suddenly changed into a person else, because the films have been going on for 50 years as well. Bond, you know, if it was a natural progression, Bond would be an old man now. So it's not. I think Daniel Craig isn't the same version of the character as Roger Moore and things like that. The same with Sherlock Holmes. There's been so many adaptations. Each one isn't a continuation. It's a reboot. It's a reset. Do I think changing it to a gender? I don't know. It's not. It's the conversation of like. It's a different adaptation of a character, but at that point it makes me think, well, why, if it's a reboot anyway, why are we sort of sticking that name on it? Why can't you just have a new female spy of some sort? There's been a whole thing about James Bond recently about his sexism and the way he deals with women, and a lot of the elements of the character sort of only works in a male to female thing. There's a lot of controversy around that, especially now. Sherlock Holmes is a detective. There's lots of female detectives, but a lot of the stories are set in the 18th century. Historically accurate. I don't know. The point I'm making is that these characters were established at a certain period of time where the attitudes towards women was completely different. The Doctor is different because the Doctor's an alien. The Doctor sort of stands aside from the rest of the sort of human characters because of the difference. The first Doctor was never a 1960s man, as he was sort of portrayed in Twice Upon a Time, the way they sort of did the sexism of the 60s. The Doctor's not like that, and I think that's why it's more plausible with the Doctor than it is with someone like Sherlock Holmes and James Bond. And I think I always say it's just time that we just had some new characters. The industries are so stubborn at sort of trying to drag every mainstream character that's had any sort of success in the past through any variation of change, just to sort of keep them. No one's willing to take a risk in the industry anymore, and I think that's important, which is probably why the gender change thing just feels like another thing they're just trying to milk a particular franchise for all it's worth, which I don't think works. A lot of characters, it makes less sense for the human characters like Sherlock Holmes, James Bond, and all that to change because of the concept of those characters. You change them, you change that character to not be that character. Was the point I was trying to make on that. I look at some of the suggestions from what people have said, what actresses, if it was to happen, would take on the role, and I've not been satisfied with any of the people say. All these actresses people list up, I have no doubt they're good actresses, but I don't think they would fit the role of the Doctor. I don't see them as that character. I won't say I'm overly pleased. But it's happened, nothing you can do, so there's no point me griping and moaning and going, oh no, I don't like this, because at the end of the day, that's not what's important, and I think it's unfair on Jodie Whittaker, really, because she's got one hell of a boots to fill, you know. Originally the decision Olivia Colman, Tilda Swinton and Hayley Atwell were 3 actresses that were sort of in the running, and I agree with most of those. Out of the 3, Hayley Atwell I've seen a little bit more of since that video. I believe probably out of the 3 she's probably the most qualified if they were going to do another, I had to pick one of those 3 as the Doctor. I still don't think Tilda Swinton or Olivia Colman suit the character. They're both, I'm not saying any of them are bad actresses, but I think not everybody can play the Doctor. And I've seen Olivia Colman's performance in Broadchurch, she was excellent in that. I'm not sure she can carry the character. Tilda Swinton, I've only seen her in Doctor Strange, I've not seen her in anything else. So it's kind of hard to put a comparison. I don't know, is it because she's kooky looking? Is that why people were suggesting her? Or is it because it's... I don't know. So I'm not convinced with the choices that people sort of made at the time. And looking at Jodie and seeing that, just the clip that I've watched, there are elements of the Doctor there. There's a danger though with that clip. I was watching it through a few times of being too caricature, too much like. These are... People compared Jodie's performance a little bit to David Tennant's erraticness. Of course this is episode 1, so the Doctor's only just regenerated, so I'm not going to, like I said, my later opinions are going to be the one that's going to be, like I said, like a caricature of the Doctor, the performance in that clip. But post-regeneration, not going to prejudge that just now. But at the moment, as long as the character tones back a bit, there's elements of new elements to the character as well as old elements, I think it will work fine. Does Jodie feel like the Doctor? To a degree, yes, and to a degree, no. It's taken her the whole series. The previous Doctors you've established have established themselves generally within the first 3 or 4 episodes of the show. They've got distinct bits and pieces. Of course, all of these things change later on in their run, but they establish the basics of said character. Jodie's Doctor's been a bit of an amalgamation of the quirkiness of Matt Smith's Doctor, the sort of the fast talking of David Tennant's Doctor, and it's got a bit of a. People have said it's a template, like the Doctor template that you work off and then you expand yourself to whatever variation of the character each actor is going to do. And it doesn't feel like Jodie's actually put her mark on it. Certain elements of it, it just feels like a generic Doctor with no distinct personality herself, which I think, being the first female Doctor, it really causes some troubles here. She's not made her mark yet. It's been 10 episodes. The reason why, another reason why I think they shouldn't have cut down the episodes than it is, 10 episodes isn't really enough when you've got to sort of juggle 3 companions as well as a new Doctor, and you're trying to introduce this concept of a new version of this character we've never seen before, a female version of a character that's been male for 12 different variations. This is going to be distinctly different, more different, and the problem I face with Jodie as the Doctor is that she's not distinctly different enough. She doesn't really even have... There are hints and there are moments. In the last episode, the Battle of Ranskoor Ab Kolos, she confronted Graham over his desire to kill Sem Shah, which was nice, but it's the first time I looked at that and went, that's the Doctor. I can see that at the twinkle of it. But then it was gone again, and she was back to just generic run around. I'm quirky Doctor. That's not quite her own identity as the version of the character, which I think she could probably do. And for a first series, it's going to be problematic. I can see why there's some rifts forming with people not seeing her as a distinctive version of the character, because there isn't enough to latch onto at this point. I think a good example is Missy. I think Michelle Gomez is fantastic as Missy, but I don't associate Missy, I don't quite put with the Master, if that makes any sense. I know it's the same character, but she doesn't quite fit the same sort of thing as the rest of the other versions of the character, and I got a feeling that would happen with the Doctor too. You know, Michelle Gomez did a good job. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not knocking her in any way, and if Missy was an original character, I think, you know, I would be all for her as a character, but I think they took a male character and twisted it and turned it into a female character, and it's not nothing on Michelle Gomez or anything, but it doesn't work, it doesn't association with the character, which is, I think, a lot of people's problem, I think. I stand by what I said about Missy. Michelle Gomez was fantastic as Missy. When I recorded the original video, I hadn't actually seen the finale where Missy meets the Master. And it just could reinforce my point about Missy. Michelle Gomez was really good. I think Missy should have been an original character. I stand by that, especially standing next to a male version of the Master, seeing John Simm's Master alongside. Especially what they did with Missy. I think if Missy had carried on being evil throughout, there was no sort of advancements of character. The whole point for Series 10 was to get Missy to be good, to get that character that's always been evil to be good. I think they chose the wrong incarnation. I think they should have done it with a male version of the Master before they did this, because it just reinforced the point of like, it just detoured from the character too much. If you sort, it was trying to get people to go, this is the same character. Oh, by the way, she's good now. She's sort of good. It doesn't quite work. If Missy was a new Time Lord, a new evil Time Lord that turned good, it's just like, yeah, it's a representation of that particular character. And I think that's probably what didn't help. So I'm still very much believe Michelle Gomez was fantastic. I still don't associate, I still can't quite piece the Master and Missy together as one entity, because it just especially in that last series, it was too different. The character detoured too much from what the character really is. I made a point about Missy and the transition from the Master to Missy and the idea of accepting the characters as the same character. I said before, and I still stand by it, the fact that Missy did not feel like the Master, especially when put alongside a male version of the character. What they decided to do with the Master, obviously to change the character dramatically, and they decided to do with the female version of the character. Now, this kind of contradicts what I said a little bit, because I said, well, Jodie needs to make her mark, and I think maybe, and what Missy did distinctly made her different from other versions of the Master. But to the point where it felt like it wasn't that character anymore. And there's a thin line, I think, when it comes to these things. If Jodie needed to make herself distinctly enough different, to the point where that she had to change herself quite dramatically, I think she needed to show us a version of the Doctor we haven't seen before. But there was a danger line where it couldn't go too far or the character would become unrecognisable. But I think it could have been done. It's a really weird line to tread, I think. Because I think if she'd gone too far, made the character way too much different, we would have gone, no, that's not the character, everyone would have gone, this is not the Doctor, what's going on? But if she played it too safe, we'd go, what's happening now? It just feels like a copy and paste, which isn't very good. I think a lot of people would say, Chris Chibnall has said as well, he says the perfect person for the role, it's not a matter of what that is, it's choosing the right person for the role. And I think I trust his judgment, and I trust the production team's judgment on who goes next. And one thing I mentioned in the video I completely forgot I said was about Chris Chibnall's choice of the right person for the role. Now I trusted, my opinion was like I trust his judgment on the next choice. Currently, since then, before, we've got no information came out recently about the casting of the 13th Doctor. Not a single male actor was auditioned for the role of the 13th Doctor. Chris, we revealed, Stephen Moffat said this as well, that Chris only wanted a female Doctor. That's the reason he took on the role of the show. He wanted a female Doctor. He only auditioned female actors. This is where my problem arises a bit with that. I still trusted his judgment in the respect of, she's probably the best actress for the role, but if he had opened the auditions to male actors as well, would that decision have stayed the same? Did Chris want to eliminate the possibility of finding a better male actor over his idea of wanting to have a female Doctor next? That's my concern with that, because if you were confident that you knew that was the next step for the show, if confident enough about it, why would you eliminate the possibility of a male actor presenting something better? I'm just going to leave that there. I mean, I believe Jodie's a very good choice based off what I've seen so far, and I have now seen Broadchurch, and I've seen a bit bigger performance from her, so I think she's a great actress. But it just made me wonder then. I thought, well, eliminating the possibility of a male actor taking the role over completely by not casting any, not even auditioning any male actors, sort of makes it seem less confident, doesn't it? I pretty much explained what I wanted to say about Chibnall's decision to cast only women for the role of the 13th Doctor. He was brought in on the condition that he would only be the person to cast the first female Doctor. That seems to me, I don't know if that's entirely true, and I'm kind of hoping it's not. The fact that he'd only accepted the position to be able to do that thing with the show, but wasn't willing to dramatically take some risks with it, I think. And I don't think the BBC let him. I don't know what actually goes on behind the scenes of the show, but if you were going to do something that dramatic, you'd have to do something that would shake things up more than it did. And I don't know if it was his decision or if it was a higher up decision, but it's not. It's played too safe, and like I said, playing it safe, it didn't really work. I still don't agree with Chibnall. If it was he only auditioned women, I think that's wrong. Like I said, but if you don't cast audition exclusive, if you audition more exclusively, then you'd never know, would you? And it's sort of like, well, could we have had something a little bit better? I don't know. I want to add as well quickly that I think Jodie's passion for the show has been really good. I think she's a great advocate for the show. She's done the one thing that she has matched everyone else is all the other previous Doctors, is that her enthusiasm for fans and for everything she's done for basically for the fans and for the show itself. She's passionate, she really enjoys what she does, and I fully support that. So I think she's a good role model for young women and young men to look up to this character. So I think before I say anything else, I think that's one thing I'm very, very Jodie as a person I think is really good to be an advocate for this programme, but it needs to come across as the character. Whether it will be successful, I don't know. Whether the general audience will accept that character or that version of the character, I don't know. It is a risk the show might take at one point in the future, and ultimately it might be a risk too far and it might kill the show. Otherwise, or it might be a risk that was taken and it works incredibly well, and that's it, you know. So they're worried about the future of the show, and I think quite rightly. A lot of people are really looking forward to it, but you can't fault people for being sceptical, like myself. I was unsure of its success, and once again, we're on this knife point edge now. I feel more confident than I did in the second video. The show now feels more confident than it was. We've had lots of videos of people, Jodie Whittaker surprising fans of the show, lots of excitement for it. The premiere went really well. A lot of people said the episode was really good. And sort of a lot of praise has come out of what's been shown so far to the general public. So the success of the show, I feel, is more tilting to success. You know, the popularity of the show was on a knife edge before. I feel it's going more towards the success of it. I feel more confident that Series 11 will promise a future Series 12, Series 13, Series 14. We'll see, because obviously this is still, in comparison to the general audience and the public and response in the Doctor Who fandom as a general thing, not everybody's seen it yet, so we're gonna. It's curious to see whether this series is going to teeter it back towards the unsure route or not. But I feel more confident than I did in the future of the show in both videos, if this was response. So yeah, more confident now about that. Right, I mentioned concern for the ratings of the show, and I think I'm going to touch upon that very quickly. The opinions and how this change has affected it, and I think I said the response from, as I mentioned, from everything I'd seen prior was very positive. Everyone who'd seen it early has given good reviews of it. The problem is it was very biased, because obviously this is a lot of people press who had seen it early, fans, people who were in the know. It was seen more exclusively. I was looking forward to seeing what the general audience thought of it. If you look at the ratings, the show itself has peaked again. The first episode was the biggest, well, the most viewed debut episode of The Doctor ever. It hit number 1 in the viewing charts. There was a lot, and the trend, of course, it went down a little bit, but overall the viewers of each episode were a lot higher than the last couple series. I think the general audience accepted what was going on and stayed on board. My grandparents kept watching it again. They went away from Doctor Who for a while. They watched Series 10 with me when I was living with them. they've carried on watching Series 11, they've caught up with it when it's come on, they've really enjoyed it. And I think the general audience perspective, a lot of the casual audience I think just enjoyed it and carried on. The fan base has had a bit of a weird mixed reaction to it. You've got a few people who really like it, a great majority of people who are very meh, myself included. There's been a couple of distinct good episodes, but everything else has been sort of just average, a couple sort of on the teetering on this not as good side of it, which generally happens. And then there's been a selection of people who've absolutely actively hated it, as they thought, and it was ruining the show. It's not really disproved the naysayers, unfortunately. That's why I needed it to make an impact. It needed to make something. It needed to be a really good series. It didn't need to be mediocre. Anything less than brilliant is put down to the fan base. It's caused a flurry of YouTubers to sort of rise up. A few of them have come up, and negative ones that review Doctor Who as it currently stands and are slandering it left, right, and centre. There's been some clash with the different sides of the fan base. It's caused some issues of having such a fairly basic, blandish series. There's no series arc, which was fine. There's no returning monsters, which I was very happy to have. To be honest, I wouldn't mind any. I think it would have given. We had that trouble with the Monster of the Week, which we did have the Monster of the Week problem. But I think the Doctor needed to stand on her own 2 feet without anything distinct before. The formula itself needed to stand on its own, and the Doctor needed to pick out some new villains. Unfortunately, everything was basic, and it's all come across as very. The general audience have just watched it, gone, that's alright, carried on with their lives. The Doctor Who fan base have watched it and gone, that's alright. Then had a bit of a whinge, some of them had a whinge about it. It's no one's gone, oh my god, that's amazing. And I think we needed to do that because it's caused issues. We're very proud of it as a show from England. There's not a lot that we can produce that people adore everywhere around the world, and it's one of our things. And I think the heritage and the fact that it's so quintessentially British works really well in its favour. I think there's still a lot of the bad reactions have all gone away. A lot of people who are not particularly happy about it to one degree or another. Time has mellowed a lot of people. Those that said I'm never going to watch it again are just not going to watch it again. That's just how it is. I'm curious now. I'm curious to see how the next 10 weeks goes. I want to see what the audience thinks of the show. I want to see what people's perspective of how Doctor is. I want to see how my opinions might change between now and then. It's 10 weeks away. So, I think as a finishing thought, Doctor Who's just started a brand new era. We've got a brand new Doctor, a brand new variation of the Doctor, 3 new companions, a new sonic screwdriver, new TARDIS, which you haven't seen yet. I'm just hoping not to spoil between now and Sunday night. A new time slot, there is so much more new this time round than there was between Russell T Davies and Stephen Moffat's era of the show. And I think after the last couple of years, the show had tired a bit. So I'm really hoping that this is the thing that brings it back to life, the thing that puts Doctor Who back at the forefront. Because if it doesn't, it is only a matter of time before we go into our Doctor Who's second major hiatus. Who knows? But I'm confident. I suppose I better leave Luke from the future to wrap up the video. And, I spoke about, the fans have sort of mellowed over the time from the announcements to the broadcast, just before the broadcast. I think the fans have rolled up again, unfortunately. Like I said before, we've had a few YouTubers come out of the woodworks that have made a bit of a thing for themselves for being heavy negative reviewers of the new series. There's been a lot of sort of people saying, oh, it's been very meh. I've seen some YouTubers that I followed didn't even realise I watched Doctor Who. I've been watching it and said, well, that was alright, it was a bit bland. And I think, yeah, and that's not what we wanted, unfortunately. And I've gone from being unsure about Doctor Who's future to being fairly confident again, to being unsure again. Of course, Stanley sitting here now, I know that Doctor Who is obviously coming back for a New Year's Day special next year. I think moving it from Christmas was actually... part of me really hates the idea of it being taken away from Christmas because it was something I watched with my family on Christmas Day. There's less likely for them all to be there to sit down and watch it and be around on New Year's Day. But at the same time, sometimes it took an hour away from my family and doing things with others, a couple of times I've locked myself away to watch the new Doctor episode while everyone else was doing things. So it'd be nice to not have that distraction. But then we've got to wait till 2020 for Series 12, which is happening, but we have to wait. It'll probably be very early, probably January 2020, but for them to sort of just go, we'll just give it another year without the show being on. We'll push the Christmas special back to New Year's today, say we've done one in 2019, and then leave the rest of the year up to you, really. When I spoke about the female Doctor originally, in that first video, I didn't like the idea. I didn't think it was something that should be done because it just would have been felt forced, and I was very much against the idea. Then they had the announcement. When it was actually announced, I was angry. I've never been so affected by something related to a TV programme before in my life. It really obviously makes me realise how much I care for this show. I was very angry about the decision, not for Jodie as the actress decision, but the change of gender. Stuff like the fact that it's been mentioned that Chibnall went for female actresses only. All these things anger me even more because it's just like, we're doing this, it's going to happen now, we're forcing it on people, and then after a couple of days I mellowed a bit. I thought, well, I love the show, I'm going to keep watching it. And then of course I was quite optimistic, wasn't I, just before, and we got the few days before, there was a lot of good promotion, it felt very fresh, and I think I felt that for the first episode or two. And then it just sort of went to meh. I'm enjoying it enough, but not enough to think, wow, this is a brand new great era of the show, because it just, to me, it doesn't feel like that. Where do I stand going forward? I think the New Year's Day special looks quite good. I think maybe it really could. I mean, I look at it and think, well, it could just be a fantastic episode. It could just sort of re-enter a new era. But then we've got to wait. We've got to wait a year before another episode. The longest period between episodes of Doctor Who was 1 year exactly, between The Husbands of River Song and the return of Dr. Mysterio. I think we're going to have to wait even longer. So we're going to have the biggest gap between individual episodes since the show came back in 2005. I don't think this series has given us enough for us to be eagerly anticipating the next run. At the same time, I think Chibnall deserves another series to sort of prove his worth. You know, he's established these characters now. I think another series would do it, just hopefully give him a good run, bring in a few older monsters, but keep a lot of new original ideas. So my overall feeling at the moment is it's gone from not wanting it to anger, to accepting it, to sort of looking forward to it, to going, nah, it's been a bit meh. But it's a show I love, so I'm going to carry on watching it, and I hope that with another year to prep for the next run, that we get something better, because, you know, that's what I always hope for as a Doctor Who fan. Even if something has been terrible, if something has been just lukewarm, then yeah. So thank you for watching this video. It is going to be a very bitty one, I'm afraid. It's going to be jumping from these clips now to clips from me 10 weeks ago, to the 2 videos I made originally. I'm just going to try and see if I can edit this into a piece that makes some coherent sense. But this will be the last video I think I'll be producing for 2018. I've got a few ideas for 2019. I know this channel's been quite dead, but I don't know if you've been following my other channel, Carbonites. A lot of scripted stuff. I've been producing a lot of video content all year. It's taken a lot of time from me. I've had a lot of stuff going on. I've had a lot of changes this year, so things have changed quite a bit. So it's got under me, and this channel, because unfortunately, once again, it's fallen a bit to the wayside. I hope it doesn't again next year, but I've got some good plans coming for this channel and for a new idea and for some new stuff. So keep watching, folks. And thank you for sticking with me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think about the idea of a female Doctor, what you think of Jodie, what you think of the 13th Doctor, what you think of Series 11, and what you hope for the future of the show. And I will see you in the new year. So thank you very much for watching. I will see you soon. Goodbye.